Soviety Pretrivsi.
Featuring Rick the Ukrainian. Please do not forget to subscribe to our channel
Soviety Pretrivsi.
in order to listen to a great interview of Yaroslav to our students.
My full name is Yaroslav, but here we call Yaroslav Yarik.
Yeah.
And Rick is part of Yarik.
Yeah.
So.
I think it was for me also kind of a surprise. I was like, Rick, and I was like, oh, that's why Yarik, and it's like the same with Poroshenko and Rushan. I was like, oh, what an insight.
Oh my God! Wow!
I think, first of all, I also would like to say thank you for the fact that you dedicated your time and you are here. There are not so many people who willingly want to go to school, back to school, and especially speak to kids. No, I'm joking. It's completely fine, and I think for them it could be really inspiring and motivating. So I'm always trying, to motivate them to speak to the people who make a lot of impact. I think it's something that I've missed during my childhood and during my school years. So it's extremely important, and just that will be the first thing. Just thank you. I was like, I'm like Gardona. Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming here. It's so beautiful.
Сегодня у нас в гостях человек при жизни ставший легендой, человек признанный, известный, авторитетный мэтр.
So Yaroslav, I wanted to talk a bit, we already started, about Makiyivka.
Mm-hmm.
I think, why is it important for me? First of all, I think you challenged a lot of stereotypes, especially in the very beginning of the invasion in 2014.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that is always important for me as a person who is from Odessa, and there are also lots of stereotypes about people who are supporting Russia in Odessa and all of this. And the same thing in this way, there were fortunately a lot of stereotypes about people from Donetsk region.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted maybe some of your stories or good stories with the people who helped you, because you already mentioned them. It's really amazing, and people who made all of these stereotypes, and you were always trying not to make them true. So just your story.
There are a lot of stereotypes about Donetsk, Makiyivka,
Right.
and all the eastern Ukraine, that there are only Russian speakers. Yes, that's partially true, because there's a majority of Russian speakers.
Right.
But mostly in cities. And when you go to any village in Donetsk, Luhansk Oblast, you'll hear Ukrainian language there.
Absolutely.
You will... it's dominating there. So the thing is, with the Soviet era, that Russian language was encouraged very much in the cities, especially.
Sure.
And that was a Soviet politics to really shame people who speak Ukrainian,
Right.
especially in cities.
Exactly.
And push the Russian-speaking people to higher positions, to all of that. And so that comes from Soviet Union, where destroying and oppressing Ukrainian language is actually one of the tools of Russian-Soviet genocide against Ukrainians.
Absolutely.
So that comes, and that also is applicable to Kyiv,
Absolutely,
unfortunately.
yes.
Why?
People in Kyiv still, a lot of people in Kyiv speak Russian.
Right.
And that oppression was happening with most of my friends and even acquaintances.
Right.
When I meet people, they say, oh, I am actually a Ukrainian speaker. I am from some village in Kyiv Oblast or Odessa Oblast or any oblast, Dnipro, Zaporizhia.
Right.
And when I moved to city when I was a student, to the regional center, I started speaking Russian, because in every city in Ukraine, that is that Soviet rule,
Right.
that you must speak Russian or you will feel shame.
Says, fool me once, shame on you. If fool me, we can't get fooled again.
You'll
right.
feel guilt, even sometimes. That's crazy how it works. And that's the same that was done in Donetsk. And when I came to first in 2014 when it all began, when
Right.
Russian invasion began. I went to the Khmelnytsky Oblast,
Right.
Netyshin. Do you know that place?
Yes.
There's a nuclear power plant
Right.
there. That's a small town, and I started speaking Ukrainian there. And my Ukrainian was pretty good because I was lucky that in a school I had a классный керівник in
Yeah.
English. How is it?
Wow, that's a good one. It's like a leading teacher
Leading
of the
teacher
class.
of
I'm
the
not sure
class.
that they do use it, so honestly, But let's put it, yeah.
I would say it's like a наставник,
Yeah, it's like a mentor.
like a mentor
Yeah.
of the class. So
Yeah.
you have like that main teacher who's mentoring you.
Exactly.
You have the other teachers who are only giving you their
Subjects,
subject.
right.
Yeah. And there's that teacher that is managing all the processes
Exactly.
in your class.
Yeah, probably like everything, like managing the class, the team spirit, the teamwork, just
Yes.
all of the conflict management, because it happens a lot. So yeah.
You're also a class mentor, right?
No, fortunately, I'm not. So yeah.
But you're doing a lot of leadership here.
I think it's more because it's connected to the podcast itself and to the project. But yeah, they have their классный керівник, so this mentor, let's put it right, in this with these kids, and she's absolutely amazing. She really knows them from their childhood, and this is extremely important. She knows their background because I'm here only for 1 year. So I cannot, understand them completely. And she knows them just from the childhood, which is insane. She's like, oh, I remember Dasha when she was 5. So it's still very
It gives
interesting.
a
for
lot
me.
of perspective.
Yeah.
Sovieti Petrivsy.
We gotta get back to
The mentor.
the mentor of the class. So she was Halina Alexandrovna from Khmelnytska Oblast.
Wow.
She was teaching us in Donetsk and really giving us a lot of Ukrainian culture, the perspective.
So she was
on
a Ukrainian
culture.
teacher?
Yes.
Perfect.
She was studying there, teaching us there
Right.
in school. She was living there for some years already, but this was a great for me chance to know Ukrainian culture better.
Right.
Because I was studying in Ukrainian school, which weren't actually common there in
Yeah.
Donetsk Oblast. There were a lot of Russian schools where they had Ukrainian
As a
of
subject,
course,
just.
as a subject,
Yeah.
but it was not like the main course.
Yeah,
I
I think in Odessa we had the same. It's like once a week, Ukrainian subject, which is nothing. What
Yeah.
can you do in once a week?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's impossible, right?
And there we had all the subjects in Ukrainian, and this was a great help to me to also develop my critical thinking.
Right.
And I've kind of saw more to what is happening and what Russia is back in 2014.
Right.
I think knowing Ukrainian history better, Ukrainian culture better, it gave me that doubt in that Russia is a friend.
Right.
And I actually, that gave me the chance to become who I am right now. And back then also, I was always a Ukrainian, a citizen of Ukraine. But unfortunately, when I started living in occupation, so first I went out to Khmelnytsky. I'm jumping subjects always.
No, don't worry,
so,
it's fine.
but I will get back to that one.
Don't
So
worry.
when I went out in 2014 to Khmelnytsky Oblast, to Netyshin, I lived there for 3 months or 4, and it was really hard to find work and a place to stay, because back then we had superstitions, as you were mentioning.
Right.
People, but it's not the part of my story, it's part of the story of my friends, but I will tell it anyway. So sometimes they were trying to find an apartment to rent in Kyiv, and they were
Declined.
a few times because they said, you're from Donetsk. And people actually didn't know why they were refusing.
Yeah.
They were just having a stupid superstition. Every superstition is stupid, actually.
Right.
I agree.
Yeah, makes
It's in the core of it.
Yeah.
So they were just saying no because they were afraid of something unknown.
Right.
It's those separatists
Yeah.
or terrorists. And so I was living there in Khmelnytsky Oblast and speaking Ukrainian. I went to a barber few times, and that woman was actually asking me, like the third time I went there, she asked me, "Where are you from?" I said, "I'm from Donetsk," and she was super surprised because she
You
said,
know Ukrainian?
no, she was like, "Hey, your Ukrainian is like you're from Kyiv or
Right.
Lviv even." I couldn't imagine. Like,
Yeah.
yes, she was surprised that I know Ukrainian, but she was actually surprised that I'm speaking it purely.
Right.
So once again, thank you, Halina Alexandrovna,
Exactly.
for awesome Ukrainian.
Yeah, actually, I think I was thinking about it. I do remember when I passed the ZNO in Ukraine. There's kind of a test that you need to, just to pass. Now it's NMT, but anyway, it's a test after your school in order to enter the university. And I do remember there was statistics about how people passed the Ukrainian language and Ukrainian literature. And mostly the best results were in Donetsk region, in Lugansk region, and in
Yes.
Odessa, right? Because we know only pure Ukrainian.
Yes.
We do not understand, this kind of Polish words that you can find in Lviv Oblast, or
Russian word surzik,
exactly,
like in
or
Poltava, for
exactly,
example.
or surzik, because it's something uncommon for us. Now I have lots of surzik, but it's because it's my everyday routine and I listen to it. But before, like during my school years, there was always only pure Ukrainian during the lessons. So yeah, I remember that was really funny. Like people from Lviv, they were like, "What the heck? How is it possible?" Like people who never speak, but that's the idea. Like
So we
know
speak
pure-
Taras Shevchenko
Exactly.
Ukrainian because that's a literature Ukrainian, and I think literature Ukrainian was developed by Taras Shevchenko.
Yeah, I think he was one of the main just
Influencers
let's
on-
put it as a
on the
celebrity.
literature Ukrainian.
Yeah, exactly, as a literature celebrity. Right. So and then you said you went to Khmelnytsky region. You were trying to find a job there, and then you came
I
back.
couldn't find it, and then I came back. I
Wow.
also had a wife there. We were
Right.
just a boyfriend and a girlfriend back then, and but we really enjoyed each other's company, and
Right.
we already lived there for a bit together. So in Khmelnytsky Oblast, we were together at her father's home,
Right.
and then. It was actually hard to live. It's hard to live with parents. So there was
Yeah.
another, all that domestic stuff was also making it hard.
Right.
So there in Makiyivka, we had an apartment where we could have lived also just two of us.
Just the two of us. We can make it if we try.
Without parents. And we had two cats,
Oh, perfect.
and we
You already mentioned with the kids, like two children.
So, two children, two cats,
Right.
And those cats, one of them is with us, one of them is unfortunately passed already, and that's a loss. Even for me, I
Right.
never considered that cat my cat, but when he died, I
Yeah.
realized that he was also a very important part of my life,
Right.
and there was a wound, unfortunately.
Right.
Unfortunately, that's just life. That's
Yeah.
how it works. I wanted to say that cats were the main reason for us to get back, because
Wow.
back then I still didn't care about cats that much as my wife did, but she cared much, and he. In English it's correctly to say it,
It,
but
right. It's
I
impossible.
cannot call a cat it, because
Yeah.
for me it's him or her, because
Exactly.
they are personalities, and
Right.
they're so good. Are you a cat or dog person, Ella?
I think mostly right now cat, because I do have a cat, and before I consider myself as a dog person, but then I found her. This is a reality of school, and I found her, and she's right now also a part of our family. So I think mostly cat.
Nice.
now.
So high
Yeah.
five for
Exactly, for all the cat lovers.
cat person.
Yeah. Exactly.
And we went back. It was November of 2014.
Right.
That time it was really hard. For the first year or year and a half there in occupation, it was really hard to live. 80% of all the businesses there simply
Were
closed.
Right.
And we didn't have restaurants, cafes. We didn't have proper supermarkets there.
Right.
We had only ATV transformed to ugly, named First Republican Supermarket.
Oh,
Can you
yeah.
imagine? That
Yeah.
cringy name. So
Yeah. How was it? Was the groceries itself? Was it like Russian?
it was Russian partially, and first 6 or maybe 9 months there were no some of the categories of the products were absent in
Right.
the markets. They were started to pour in from Russia only after half a year, I
Right.
think. And the quality of food was terrible, Russian
Right.
food. I mean, it was
Yeah.
terrible. But those products there that were there, it was not all the positions. Like some of the shelves were empty.
Right.
Some of the products were still there, but started disappearing bit by bit, and then replaced by Russian products.
Right.
And Russian products are really low quality. I don't know
Right.
how they managed to do it.
I mean,
But yeah, maybe somewhere in Moscow there was
Yeah.
perfect groceries, but it was coming from Rostov region,
Right.
and it was just terrible.
Yeah.
You couldn't find anything good. I had no job. No, first, what is interesting? First, I went back when we went back, and I went back to my job, which was the maintenance of automatic firefighting systems.
Wow.
Yeah, I was working there.
it's kind of an engineering job.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it was an engineering job.
Right.
I was actually maintaining the automatic systems. It's like the console
Right.
where the information from all the sensors all over the place is
Okay.
coming
Right.
to that thing, and I needed sometimes to set it up, sometimes to program it. So,
Right.
and also the company was pretty, well, I would say not big yet, but not small. We had so many objects in Donetsk that we were maintaining,
Right.
like business centers, aqua park in Donetsk.
Right.
It was one of our objects, and I
Right.
was working there before the invasion for a year, a bit more than a year.
Right.
I was a pretty good specialist already. I knew those systems, and
Right.
I've seen a good path in front of me where
Right.
I could, like a career path.
Yeah.
There was so much in the future for me there, and Donetsk was very, very developed city. It was just like Kyiv
Right.
back then, and at some point it was even more developed than Kyiv.
Right.
We had more stuff there than in Kyiv in terms of how do you call it? Rozvah entertainment, yeah,
Right.
and in terms of businesses, also some opportunities with big oligarchs building some business centers there in Donetsk. It was so prosperous back
Yeah.
then, and then we just see coming back. We see a ghost of
Yeah.
Donetsk. We see everything's closed. Some windows are
Like
boarded.
Yeah.
Like it. Коли забивають дошками, how can I call it in English?
That's a good one. It's like when they put, the kind of a wooden
Boards.
wooden
on it.
boards just on the window.
Some OSB.
Right.
I'm not sure that abbreviation is the same in
Yeah.
English, but we
Yeah.
have that material that you can just knock.
Just the cheapest one.
The cheapest one.
Yeah, right. That's very important.
Yeah, we had a big business center with glass windows, and on it, some of the windows were boarded, and it looked crazy.
Right.
It's like wounded building,
Yeah.
and that city was wounded.
Yeah.
We've seen it wounded, and Russia was trying to convince locals that Ukraine was shelling Donetsk, though most of the shelling was coming from Russia
Right.
or from those
Sure.
separatist forces supported by Russia. Though among them there were also a lot of Russian soldiers
Yeah, makes
among
sense.
those forces, and they were not necessarily bombing or shelling Donetsk or Makivka from territory of Russia. It was mostly from the occupied territories also. The occupied, not
Right.
the occupied.
Right.
It was happening like from one district of Donetsk, for example, they were just shelling other district of Donetsk, or sometimes from Donetsk they were shelling Makivka. From Makivka they were shelling Avdiivka. In 2014 and 2015, I was waking up in the night together with my wife and cats from the sounds of howitzer shooting from the
Right.
next block to
Yeah.
mine. They were placing howitzers next to the civilian buildings, and they were shelling Avdiivka because
Right.
we were reading the Telegram channels where it was called Pereklichka. I actually don't know how you call
Oh,
it in
that's
English.
a good one. Yeah. Wow.
There's no word for it,
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah, I don't think so. There's kind of a. Let's put it as a chat.
As a chat,
Yeah.
okay. In this chat, we had that where people were saying, "I hear the outgoing
Right.
from this district,"
Right.
and then next second. Or
Avdiivka
in
people
10
are like,
seconds,
yeah.
people from Avdiivka were saying there was incoming here in
Yeah.
Avdiivka. So we were 99% sure that they were shelling
Yeah.
Avdiivka from Makivka or Donetsk from Makivka sometimes, because we could prove it with
Yeah.
this. And we also we cannot deny that some of the shells from Ukrainian side or mortars were hit in Donetsk.
Right.
That might have happened because
Absolutely,
you know,
it's war.
This is war.
Yeah.
This is natural. But most of us in Makivka and Donetsk knew that Russians were responsible for
Yeah.
most of those attacks.
Sure.
How did I come to this from telling you the story of me living in Khmelnytsky? Well, I said we get back and
Yeah.
how hard it was to live there. Yeah, so it was pretty natural flow of my story. But right now, I've told you some new things today. You know, what I wasn't telling on my streams before about
Right.
this chat and how we actually knew about this. I
Yeah,
never
like kind
tell
of
it.
witnesses of the of
Or
the
we
real
were the
war
witnesses.
reality. Yeah, I think that's for now. I'm always thinking about the fact that I have never been to Donetsk before, and that's a pity. I have no idea why, but I do remember in 2012, you know, all of this holiday and kind of a Donetsk-centered approach, you know, because Euro 2012, and
Yeah.
it was the year when I finished the school, so you know, it was a lot of the kind of flavors and the smells. I still recognize in all of these holidays, and I do remember we wanted to go to Donetsk, but something happened and we didn't. And part of my family are from Donetsk, so I only know Donetsk from their memories. You know, so I do hope that one time we will go there and I will see it. But you know, for now it's kind of as you say, as a ghost city, but in memories. Let's put it this way.
Yeah.
So yeah. Tell me, Yaroslav, I just also wanted to, you were telling about your teacher, Galina Alexandrovna. Probably one time she'll hear us. And the fact that she was a person who actually was a kind of a point, right, that made you think more about you being Ukrainian and the culture. And I also want to talk a bit about your English, because as an English teacher, I'm, you know, always trying to motivate them, at least, you know, not thinking about present perfect continuous, but just to talk. That's the most important for me.
Yeah.
Tell me about your English path, like how it happened, and why is it so good, and how did you make it, and probably the teachers that made you also, I don't know, you know, more interested or motivated in learning.
They definitely made a huge contribution
Right.
to that, and played their role in me loving English. Yeah, it started So there were two schools.
Right.
There was preschool or something like, no, not the preschool. From the first to third class, we had two schools standing next to each other.
Right.
One was teaching us from the first to the third class, and then we, from that school, we were transferring to the one that was teaching from fifth
Right.
to 12th grade.
Yeah.
We, for some reason, skipped fourth grade.
Yeah, I do remember
those
that.
years.
Yeah, I do remember it.
It was strange.
Yeah.
But it was only, I think, before 1999 or 2001 or something like that.
Yeah, I think it was in 2000. Like for those kids who went in 99. Oh, I even don't know, because I went to school in 2001, and I was the first who didn't miss this class, and everybody's like, what a pity, there was a chance for you. But yeah, I didn't miss it, but I do remember it really vividly.
So in that school, where, well, how do you call it? Початкова школа.
Elementary.
Elementary school, yes.
Right.
In an elementary school, we had a young teacher. She was just coming from university, I guess. And I don't remember much about that, but I remember that I really liked English back then.
Right.
And it was interesting. So her approach must be cool. Though I don't remember anything about that approach. But then in middle school, we had two teachers. First teacher was, I actually don't remember who of them was first, but I remember Tamara Mikhailevna, who was really, passionate about us teaching, about teaching us English.
Yeah.
And it was interesting. Then it was another English teacher. She was not that good anymore, but I already loved English, so I enjoyed it too.
Yeah.
And it was easier for me.
Right.
Then, so in school, I also have to thank, besides of Halina Alexandrievna, I also gotta thank Tamara Mikhailevna for bringing
the contribution, right?
The contribution and that's how I love English also. And then, if to tell you more about my relationships with English, it started like music played huge contribution. Played contribution? No, you cannot say that.
Yeah, I think like played a huge role.
Played a role,
right?
But or made a contribution.
Yeah.
So music. I started with, I think, with System of a Down in it was 9th grade. I don't remember what year was it, like maybe 2005 or something like that. So System of a Down, Linkin Park, and who
there was
else
also
was
at
there?
that time
Limp Bizkit was there.
Oh, okay.
But I wasn't listening to Korn for some reason back then, and to Slipknot.
Oh, I remember the friend of mine, like my best friend, he still is like he was listening to Slipknot. All of these huge T-shirts, like black T-shirts with this. Yeah, that was insane. And
I discovered Slipknot only in 2017 or something.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
But I was really into it back then.
Yeah. I remember all of this, haircuts with this hair that is all over your face. Yeah, this black T-shirt. It's perfect.
It was so interesting how I listened to that kind of music in 9th grade in 2005, but then in 2006 and 7th, I switched to club music.
Right.
This was so odd, and it was like I was then looking back, and I'm not proud of my those club years.
Right.
Because I was acting like a jerk mostly, and before that I was for me, music associates with me being better or a worse person in school.
Right. I think for now they don't have that. That's what I realized. They're all around. Some of them, of course, have their music preferences or they love the band, but mostly all of their music, kind of these preferences, are based on TikTok or YouTube. So, it's not something what we had, you're listening to rock. Oh, what you're a jerk. Or you're listening to rap. This is for stupid people, because I do remember that. It was, and fortunately, I was the person who was listening to rap back then, and mostly to Russian rap, which is kind of one of my the problems that I still have, traumas. But I mean, for now, our teenagers, they don't have this, kind of relationship with music. It's more just a part of it, a part of their lives, nothing more. And for us, it was something, big,
Interesting,
extremely big,
Yeah.
like huge.
And so I started learning English also in music,
Right.
and it developed much more in my student years,
Right.
because I started listening to songs better. I started recognizing some words and then sentences, you
Right.
know, because when you listen to it in school, I
Yeah.
wasn't really trying to hear some words. I mean, I've heard some of them, but sometimes back then, no, not back then, later when I was a student, I was listening to those songs again, and I was like, oh, that was that word all the time, and I was
Exactly, yeah.
making up some crazy word that, that I
right.
thought. And in student years, I also started watching TV shows, American TV shows
Right.
and movies with subtitles,
Right.
because I don't know. And then I started copying,
Right.
impersonating the characters from the movies and
Wow.
TV shows, and I was just having fun when I was hearing some. For example, I was a fan of original Star Trek
Wow.
from 60s.
Right.
It was back then. Maybe you remember on. What was the name of the channel? Enter or something. There was a Ukrainian channel, and every day, in the evening,
Right.
closer to the midnight, they were actually showing the Star Trek.
Right.
They were broadcasting the original Star Trek with the Ukrainian dubbing.
Wow.
So Ukrainian television was very progressive
Yeah,
back then, I
exactly,
would say.
exactly. I do remember I also watched a video about how progressive Ukrainian television was at that time. And all of this, what was really interesting for teens and, the cartoons that we had, it was, at that moment, it was something extremely unusual, even
Yeah.
not like, I don't consider like Ukrainian television even now as a, kind of a progressive. And back then, it was something absolutely different, right?
In late 90s and early 2000s,
Right.
It was super progressive. Right now, it unfortunately degraded.
Exactly, yeah.
Or degraded.
I think degraded. That is a good one. To have upgrade and degrade. Ooh, that's a good one. Hopefully one of the two options is fine. So,
Anyway.
Yaroslav, just one question. What is interesting for me? Have you ever played any musical instrument?
I actually was never, unfortunately, did it in time.
Right.
When I was 20, I decided to start learning drums.
Right.
But it went horribly as my coordination, physical coordination was terrible already.
Right.
It formed, and when you're a kid, it's so easy because your body is so plastic.
Right.
And you can
Flexible, right?
Flexible, and you can really teach something much faster.
Yeah.
And I was watching people, even my age,
Right.
learning drums, and it demotivated me so much that in a year and a half of learning, I would say not super hard, but still I was given some time to do it, and I was trying. I've seen the results that people had,
Right.
and compared it to mine, and I got super demotivated.
Right.
And I just dropped at some point. I think that's one of the few things that I dropped,
Right.
because most of the things that I was doing, I'm a pretty stubborn person.
Right.
So I achieved some results.
Right.
When I was studying also in the university,
Right.
I was a cinephile. Do you know the word?
No.
Well, maybe in English it is different, but it's when person is obsessed with movies.
Wow.
And
Okay.
I was spending, well, at least 50% of my, or maybe even 70% of my free time going to the movies. We had that student pass
Right,
back
yeah.
then. And multiplex in Donetsk, we
Right.
had the student pass during the day. If I had to go to the university, let's say at 2 p.m.,
Right.
sometimes I spent the first part of the day watching 2 movies, going to 2 movies,
Right.
and then I went to the study. So sometimes there were some days when I was watching 3 or even 4 movies.
Right.
I tried to watch every single of them. The tickets, movie tickets, were super cheap back then,
Right.
and I could afford it.
Yeah.
And I was spending the time there, and then I also started doing what? I started making reviews for the
Yeah, I
movies.
just wanted to say, were you making any notes or reviewing? Yeah.
I
yeah.
was reviewing, and what's the
Kinopoisk?
actually a word, Kinopoisk, but also there was Kinokadr.
Yes, I do remember it.
And they were really inspiring me with their pieces
Right.
because they were professionals, and I tried to
Copy, kind of, right.
copy or like use their style,
Right.
and I was doing those. Well, they were clumsy comparing to those
But
to them, but this was pretty good, and some of the websites started making orders for me, and I was starting
Wow. So
writing
it's like
reviews.
a freelance writer,
Yeah,
right?
it was a freelance, not that much, but considering how many movies I watched back then, it was a lot of me and a huge part of my life.
Yeah.
That I was really into movies,
Right.
and this is why actually I wasn't. This is not the reason. This is just a consequence of that. I wasn't really a citizen of my country back then. I wasn't interested in politics, just
Right.
like Russians, unfortunately.
Right.
And only in 2022, with the full-scale invasion, I finally came to conclusion that you should be interested in politics if you want a good future for yourself, your country.
Right.
You got to be a part of your country, because if you won't be interested in politics, politics will use you, abuse you, and yeah.
True. Yeah, that is 100% true. Why I was asking about the musical instrument, I have a theory that, because you said what is resonated me, you said that you were copying the characters of the films, right, or of the movies, and sometimes I think that the kids, and I'm also thinking about myself as a kid. I was never singing, I have unfortunately no talent, but I also always had kind of a, how can you say it, хороший слух, like
Good hearing.
good hearing. Yeah, it's like kind of when you understand the music,
The sense of rhythm.
Exactly, the sense
yes.
of rhythm. That is probably the most important. So what I've realized that was always not a problem for me to copy kind of the rhythm of the music, and I think that is why for those people who are more or less good at listening, they really are good at languages. It's easier for them because they understand the rhythm, and especially when they are copying something, it is extremely important just understand the concrete rhythm of a person. So that's why it was interesting for me when you said that I was copying. I was like, oh, that's probably still 1 point to my theory. I don't know. Probably there is a theory already. It's not mine.
I will back your
Yeah.
theory, and I think you're 100% true. I agree with you because that's how it worked with me.
Yeah.
I have a good feeling of the reason.
Right.
Okay.
Is
I'm
it a
starting to
rhythm?
get
Yeah,
a bit tired.
yeah. Can imagine.
Feeling of the rhythm. Yes.
Yeah.
And that's it. I
Yeah.
cannot play any instrument.
Yes.
I cannot even properly sing.
Yes.
But that how do you call it? Whisper singing or whisper screaming. I
Right.
can easily repeat that.
Exactly. That's why I'm talking. You even don't need to make it via the instrument. You can just copy it, and in case you can make it, it's perfect. So for now, we will go and have some lunch. Yes, Dasha.
Yeah, we can actually comment what's happening. Dasha just entered the room and
And was
now-
running. She was really running. She had a marathon for us to go to the dining hall.
and
Okay.
kind of asking us what should we do next with her look.
Yeah, exactly. I hope so. Dasha is super, just staring at us. See you if she will not eat us.
Soviety Petrivsy.
featuring Rick the Ukrainian. Please do not forget to subscribe to our channel
Soviety Petrivsy.
in order to listen to a great interview of Yaroslav to our students.